Wow, you have a big collection of books back there.
Yeah, this is part of them. There's
Yeah.
two more shelves over there, and then a couple in my wife's office, and a couple in the bedroom, and one in my son's room. I realized that we had Quiet Loud back there, and I was so excited. I ran back to get it, and it's in pieces. We've
Is
had it
it?
for a while.
Yeah. How old is he again? Did you say?
I'm 8 now,
8.
so
Okay.
it's been a little while since we did Quiet Loud. We had
Uh-huh.
that one. We had Big, is it
Big
Big
little,
Little,
big little.
Big Little, and Toot.
Uh-huh.
So we had a nice collection because they sent me your middle grade books. I'm like, oh, middle grade author, wonderful. I'd be happy to chat with her. And these look charming. Wait a minute, I know that name. And I was sure.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, already in my house.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I'm definitely was a board book author for a long time before I dove into the middle grade books. But yeah, the first 3 were Quiet Loud, Big Little, and Yummy Yucky, which all came out in 2003. So it's been almost 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And I had a little baby then who was 1. So now he's almost 22.
Well, baby went on for several books. Right? I saw there were some
Baby's still going. Yeah.
20 of just last year, right?
Yeah. I'm
Okay.
still making them. Yeah.
And that's going to continue even after your middle grade adventure.
I think so. Yeah. Baby has a new friend that I'm calling Baby Bo. And that first book is coming out in June. It's called Splash. And they're playing at the beach. And it's kind of a summer book. And then there's one called Swoosh that's going to be a winter book. And then 2 more, a spring themed book and a fall themed book with Baby and the friend playing in all the different environments. Yeah. So I'm just keep going.
Well, this is the kind of quality stuff that I think esteemed reader or esteemed audience wants to hear about. When will those books be available? And we'll call this the start of the show.
The Splash will be available in June, I think June 10th or something yeah, it's available for pre-sale right now on Amazon, but yeah, that'll be available in June. And then the winter one will be a whole year later, and the other 2 will follow maybe year after those ones. I think so.
Ever foresee a time when you're not doing picture books?
I don't foresee that time. Yeah, I hope not. I hope I can keep doing them for a long time. Yeah, it's great. I love it. It's what I always wanted to do, and it's a great career.
Well, obviously, I'm hoping that the RIZZLERUNK Club is going to go on forever and be the first of many middle grade adventures that you're going to be putting out. But I hope those the baby books continue, and I hope the board books continue.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I'd love to keep writing the RIZZLERUNK Club. It's based on myself and my best friend. We became friends in 4th grade, which I explain in the first book, and some of it's based on reality and some of it's totally made up, but it's kind of like the whole picture, the whole world is in my head from when I was in 4th grade and what I remember from that time about different stories. And then also when I was writing the first book, my kids were around that age. So I also got to see the world through their eyes and pay attention to what was happening with them at school and with their friends and everything, and use that as well to write authentically toward them.
I had heard, and correct me if this is apocryphal, but I'd heard that the school was directly across the street from you at one point, so all the kids were coming over to see your son, and
that is very true. Yeah. It wasn't across the street, but it was down the street, so a lot of kids were over at my house all the time. Yeah, and they would just come in and they'd be playing, or we even did, like in the first book, they make some bracelets out of candy wrappers, so I just made that up. But then when the kids were over, I had them take a bunch of candy wrappers and make bracelets to see if they worked and everything. And there was also an episode with some frogs' eggs in the first book where I ordered some of these little beads that expand in water and practiced the whole thing. Not it actually has to do with clogging the toilet. I didn't actually dump them down the toilet, but but I practiced the whole thing to make sure it was plausible that it could actually happen. So it was pretty fun with the kids around, you know, kind of doing some research.
So you could kind of keep an eye on them and maybe do some quick sketches for.
Yeah. I took pictures of the events, so I have pictures of them, and yeah, sketches and stuff of the final products that they made. And also, one of my daughter's friends drew a bad drawing, purposefully bad drawing of a horse in the first book also. But then this book, when I was writing, they were in high school. So different time in the household, but you know, I'd been able to relive that age not too long in the past.
So when did you start? The first book is Best Buds Under Frogs, available now, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How long ago did you have the idea for this? When did you start working on it?
Well, initially, okay, so I decided I wanted to do that a long time ago, like when I first was starting to write, that I would like to tell those stories from because I remember fourth grade really well because we moved to a new school. We moved to a new house and I went to a new school. So that year, for whatever reason, is very vivid in my head because it was a change, I think. And then I met my best friend, who's still my best friend. So it was a very fun year. And we told some lies to each other that year that we both fessed up to much later in life. In the book, they had to resolve it by the end of the book. In real life, it took a lot longer. But so I'd had this in my mind, and the first book, or the first thing that I wrote down, was more like a collection of stories of all the different things that I had in my mind, you know, different stories from that time. But then it was either going to go in the direction of being a novel or being a collection of stories. And I kind of hadn't really done either yet. So I decided to write it as a novel. And of course, coming from writing, you know, boogers are yucky, burgers are yummy, boogers are yucky. It took me actually quite a while to really get a good story going. And I ended up taking part of the story and rearranging everything. So the story that I'd initially had in my head for the first book became the second book. So they had longer to establish their relationship. And then there was another friend that is also still one of my best friends, who was in the first book, who was our trouble-causing friend when we were that age. And so that's Jill in the first book. And she just moved here to Hailey, Idaho, to enjoy the mountains, but also to be right next to me. So it's pretty fun.
And to cause you trouble
We're
again.
still friends. She's forgiven me for writing the book.
When you've got friends from the fourth grade like that who are still in your life and you're writing about them, are they eagerly awaiting these manuscripts and then trying to keep you honest? Like, that's how you remember that? No. Let us tell you how it really happened. Or...
Not really. No. They're both going with the flow. But that was another thing I had to overcome in writing the first book, which took me quite a long time. Like, I would say, I think it took 7 years, maybe, by the time, because I was setting it aside and doing my board books and everything by the time I actually finished it. So, but I had to get over reality and make it into the story that it became. Like, I had to let go of what actually happened in certain situations to make it a better story. For example, the fact that we didn't actually resolve the lies between ourselves until we were in our late teens, I had to resolve by the end of the book. So there were little changes here and there that I made to the actual stories to make them either more believable in the book or fit the story better.